Hi, this is Heidi with my ethical presentation. The description of my client is a 20-year-old Caucasian male who is deaf. He's suffering from major depressive disorder. I will get into the substance abuse later in this presentation because he himself does not have a substance abuse disorder, but someone close to him does that affects him. So, my ethical dilemma is I don't know sign language and I would like to help him as best as I can. I work at the Student Counseling Center and no one is proficient in sign language, and the client knows this and he's okay with it. When I first got the client, I inquired if he had an interpreter, and he did. And so I considered that, but my ethical dilemma is if the interpreter came in with him, yes, I might be able to understand him, or I might be able to move things along faster. But at the same time, if an interpreter was in the room, that would be a breach of confidentiality. It would be more than me and him in the room. The third person interpreter would know about his problems. Also, I thought that with the interpreter being in the room, he might hold back and not say as much as he wants to, or say as much as he needs to. And also, there's always the possibility that she could be misinterpreting it. I'm sure she's well qualified to help him in academic endeavors, but when it comes to counseling, she might not be able to pick up on what he's feeling, or she might misinterpret what he's trying to say, etc. The ethical principle screen I used is by Lowenberg, Dogoff, and Harrington, and it's actually called the Ethical Principle Screen. There are 7 things to go through. The first one is protection of life. Now, he's a healthy 20-year-old, but he does have major depressive disorder. So effective counseling needs to be there so the depression doesn't turn suicidal. So I want to be able to help him with his depression. It is severe. So suicidal thoughts could arise at one time. He denies them at the time. The second one is equality and inequality. Everyone deserves access to counseling. The dignity and worth of the person needs to be kept in mind. So I need to treat him like I would any other client. I don't want to make a big deal out of his disability or show any less respect or caring than I would with any other client. And I also need to remember that he has self-determination. He doesn't want the interpreter in the room, or I'm assuming so because he hasn't brought it up himself. The third one is autonomy and freedom. Client has the freedom to choose and the right to his autonomy. So if he wants to be the only one in the room with me, then that's what I have to do, is let that be. And one of my concerns about, not having an interpreter is it's going to take longer, but I'm just going to have to deal with that myself. It might take a little longer to understand him, but we will get through that, and I'll talk about how later. Number 4 is least harm. The least harm would be protecting his confidentiality, his privacy, and I think it's more effective for him to be alone. That way I have a better chance of getting to know him, and he's more apt to open up. The 5th one is quality of life. I think the client will benefit from counseling. Hopefully our sessions will alleviate his symptoms, and the depression will subside, and hopefully his total quality of life will be better because he'll be happier, have coping skills, and better be able to deal with school. Number 6 is privacy and confidentiality, and we've already kind of gone over that. I'm protecting his privacy, I'm protecting his confidentiality by not having the interpreter or even ask if the interpreter could be in the room. Because if I asked him, he might feel the need to please me, or he might feel the need to do it just because I've asked. Number 7 is truthfulness and full disclosure. I'm not proficient in sign language, and I've been honest with that, and he's okay with that. On his part about the truthfulness and full disclosure, I feel like he'll be more honest and hopefully disclose more with just him and I in the room. Later I will talk about the plan, but first I want to do the NASW Code of Ethics and then talk about the substance abuse disorder and then the plan. So I'm going a little out of order, but there's a reason because I don't want to confuse anybody. As far as the NASW Code of Ethics, besides 101, commitment to clients, and besides 102, self-determination, and 107, privacy and confidentiality, both 205 and 301 come into play. Both deal with consultation, and I'm seeking a lot of advice and consultation on my therapy sessions with this client. 301 has to do with consultation and supervision. The first one is just consultation. So I'm seeking advice and counsel, and I'll tell you how when I mention my plan. 2.06 is referral for services. 2 things. If I feel like I'm not being effective and my supervisor does not feel like I'm being effective, I will refer him out. And also, I've already referred him to our doctor on staff at the Student Counseling Center because him having major depressive disorder, severe, I think there's chemical things that could help with medicine. So I have referred him to the doctor on staff. And the last code of ethics that I think applies here is 4.02 is discrimination. Just because I'm uncomfortable, because I'm not used to counseling people at all, but especially with a deaf student, I can't let that stop me, so I will not discriminate against him. Okay, the substance abuse disorder, he himself does not have a substance abuse disorder, but his mom does. His mom and her boyfriend does. One reason that he's actually depressed is because the mom becomes violent when she drinks, and also when he lives with her, he witnesses abuse from the mom's boyfriend to the mom, and that's because he uses drugs. Also, the mother was so violent with him when he was 8 that she stabbed him. He has not mentioned that to me, but someone else done the triage or the very first meeting, and he mentioned it then. Okay, last but not least is my plan. I plan on, and I have been using CBT and motivational interviewing. At the Student Counseling Center, I tape most of my sessions, but I'm making sure I tape this one every time, and I'm making sure I'm giving it to my supervisor for review, and I plan to keep on doing that, making a point that she sees every session. I'm also utilizing my primary supervision, like I mentioned, my supervisor, but I also have secondary supervision, and I'm also this client and how I can help him comes up in secondary supervision, and then I also have group supervision, and I utilize that when needed with this client. What I plan to do in the future, I'm going to look up evidence-based practices for trauma-based therapies. I'm going to find a therapy that's appropriate for trauma that I think that'll help him. It has not come up, but it might come up later, and it probably will if he stays here and we keep on seeing each other in a therapeutic relationship. And I'm going to follow up and make sure that the referral goes through, because there's a waiting list right now of a month, and I want to make sure that he does get in with the doctor. Thank you. Have a good day.